Is this the scariest episode of the popular Nicktoon Rugrats? Possibly. At the very least, it is definitely up there with a couple others, looking at you, Mr. Fiend, which we may take a look at someday if I can get the nerve up to do that. We start the episode with a spoiled Angelica surrounded by toys and junk food while watching TV in her room. She runs out of juice and calls for her father Drew to bring her some more, which he happily does. She asks about going out for ice cream later, and he tells her of course. He does hesitate at the mention of getting a pony, and he continues to shower his daughter in compliments, saying that she's the greatest daughter in the whole world and his absolute favorite. Charlotte calls for him, and she excitedly tells him that her test turned blue. They're having another baby. Drew calls Angelica to the dining room, and she's worried that she's done something to get in trouble, which, fair. They tell her that she's not in trouble, but instead they have great news. They're having a baby, and Angelica starts to laugh, thinking that they're playing a trick on her. They tell her over and over that it's not a trick, they're actually having a baby. This causes Angelica to argue with her parents that they are definitely not having a baby, and she is clearly getting upset. Later on, Angelica asks her mother to go to the toy store, but her mother tells her that she is too busy planning for the new baby. The young Pickles goes to her dad, and he also tells her that he's too busy budgeting for the new baby and that there's gonna have to be some cuts. Ouch. At Tommy's house, Angelica is distraught, depressed. All of those big, sad words. She's not picking on the babies or doing anything really, and her cousin Tommy takes notice pretty quick. Angelica opens up to him, but uses her friend as the main character instead of herself. Tommy happily tells her that at least it's her friend going through this, and not her. At that time, Dee Dee comes over and tells Angelica that she heard the great news and how excited she is for the young girl and her family. Angelica's mood quickly grows irritated, but she holds her words in to her aunt. Which, good on Angelica. That night, Charlotte is watching TV when Angelica comes and tells her that she's thought about it and she doesn't think that right now is a good time to have a new baby. Charlotte tells her that when it comes, and that there is nothing that can be done about it. Angelica goes to her room and turns on her TV. A doctor, probably a parody of Dr. Phil, let's be honest, tells people to call the number if they need some help, so Angelica does. She calls in and expresses her worries over the new baby. The doctor tells her that there are other people in the world and that she needs to learn how to share, and wow! Yeah, she lied to him and told him that she was 7 years old, but he's still perfectly fine with saying that to a child who is about to go through a massive change? Yikes. Angelica tries to impress her parents by clearing her plate of peas at dinner, but they're too busy talking about that new baby of theirs. As Angelica falls asleep, we get her dream sequence. The crying baby wakes Dream her up, and Charlotte asks who she is. Drew says that they basically forgot that they had another kid. Ouch. Once they leave the room, the new baby threatens his big sister. Angelica runs out to tell her parents, but they tell her that babies can't talk. Oh, and that they're also giving her room and all of her stuff to the new baby. She asks where she's gonna sleep, and Charlotte says, we didn't think about that. How about the laundry room, and while you're in there, fold the clothes for me. They also told her that they forgot to make her dinner, so they gave her a new piece of cheese, all because they were so busy with their new baby. The baby, even bigger than before, comes into the laundry room and starts bullying Angelica. He takes her cheese dinner away and eats it, and then begins to run her off. Angelica hops into a car and goes down the road, thinking that she had finally outrun him, but instead she runs into a giant version of the baby, like building size, and he grabs the car and eats her. What? Terrifying. Angelica begins screaming in real life in her sleep, causing Drew to come in and check on her. Angelica wakes up and tells him how she actually feels and finally breaks down. Drew tells her that her parents will always love her and that she's their baby girl no matter what. The very next morning, a solemn Drew and Charlotte are on the couch. Charlotte says that she went to the doctor that morning and it turns out that there's not going to be a new baby after all. Angelica acts sad and tells her parents that she was just getting used to the idea of having a baby around, probably for their sake since she noticed that they were so down. But once she's alone in her room, she's clearly very pleased with the outcome. While this episode is absolutely terrifying, like Angelica got eaten, during the dream sequence, it also touches on some very, very heavy stuff, which, as I've said before on this channel, is one of my all-time favorite things about Rugrats. While the viewer never gets a clear answer, clearly something has happened with Charlotte. Whether it was a miscarriage or a false positive, we will probably never know. But both are things that can happen and do happen every single day. It's a very, very heavy and very, very important thing to put into a children's show. It brings awareness to both adults and to children and people who may not have known that this is a thing that happens. So what did you think about this episode? How terrified were you of Angelica's little dream brother? Let me know down below.